Sarah sits across from her partner, who has just said, "I love you" for the first time, and instead of joy, she feels her chest tighten. Her first thought isn't, "I love you too." What does he want from me? She's 32, successful, and has no idea why intimacy feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. But if you looked closely at her childhood, you'd see it. A mother is physically present but emotionally vacant. A father who measured love in report cards, not conversations. Dinners where everyone ate in silence, phones glowing, feelings unwelcome. Nothing is technically wrong, and nothing would be flagged by social services. It's just an ongoing absence of something essential. And now, decades later, Sarah doesn't understand why she apologizes when someone else bumps into her. Why compliments make her skin crawl. Why love feels dangerous. She's not alone. Millions of adults are walking around with this invisible wound, a childhood spent without the love they needed, and it's shaping every relationship they have without them realizing it. This is what psychologists call childhood emotional neglect, and it's one of the most invisible forms of developmental trauma, because nothing terrible happens. There are no bruises, no screaming matches to point to, and no clear violation. Just a slow, steady deprivation of emotional attunement. It looks different in every home. Sometimes it's parents consumed by their own unresolved trauma, their mental illness, their failing marriage, leaving no bandwidth for your feelings. Sometimes it's a high-achieving family where success is praised but sadness is ignored, where you learn that emotions are inconvenient obstacles to productivity. Sometimes it's well-meaning parents who simply don't know how to do emotional attunement because they never received it themselves. They feed you, clothe you, house you, attend every soccer game, but when you try to share your inner world, they change the subject, minimize it, or offer solutions instead of simply listening. Perhaps you came home excited about something, only to be met with a distraction. Maybe you cried and were told to toughen up or stop being dramatic. You learned early that expressing needs led to sighs, eye rolls, or lectures about gratitude, so you stopped expressing them. You became the straightforward child, the one who never caused problems, the one who learned to be small and quiet and undemanding. And everyone praised you for it, never realizing they were praising your adaptation to emotional starvation. The child in that environment doesn't think, "I'm being neglected." They think, "I must not be interesting enough. I must not matter enough," because children lack the framework to blame their environment. They are only capable of blaming themselves. So that belief, "I'm not worth attention," becomes the foundation on which everything else is built. Here's what happens neurologically when emotional attunement is missing. Research from the Harvard Center on the Developing Child shows that a child's brain depends on serve and return interactions. The child serves, they smile, cry, and reach out, and the caregiver responds with eye contact, soothing and emotional mirroring. When that serve goes unreturned repeatedly, the brain adapts. The amygdala, your threat detection center, becomes hyperactive, interpreting neutral situations as dangerous. A delayed text triggers the same alarm as genuine abandonment. Meanwhile, the hippocampus, which regulates stress, can actually shrink in size. Brain imaging shows measurable structural differences in adults who experience childhood emotional neglect. Your stress response system becomes dysregulated, like a smoke alarm going off when you make toast. The result is chronic anxiety, emotional numbing, or both. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk refers to this as the body keeping the score. Your conscious mind might not remember clearly, but your nervous system encoded those early experiences as data about how the world works, and it responds accordingly forever. Not everyone who grows up without love looks the same as an adult. Attachment theory identifies 4 patterns. First, anxious attachment develops from inconsistent emotional availability. Sometimes your parent was warm, other times cold, and you never knew which you'd get. As adults, these are people who need constant reassurance, who panic when partners seem distant, and who text "Are we okay?" after minor disagreements. Their nervous system genuinely believes conflict equals abandonment. Then there's avoidant attachment. These children had caregivers who consistently dismissed their emotions. Crying met with irritation needs to be treated as an inconvenience. So they deactivated their attachment system entirely and became what they call independent. But this isn't healthy independence, it's defensive self-sufficiency. These adults say, "I don't do emotional conversations," or "I'm not the relationship type." They pull away when intimacy deepens, find flaws in good partners, and confuse distance with strength. Disorganized attachment develops when a caregiver is both comforting and frightening to the child. A parent alternating between affection and rage, or struggling with addiction. These children experience what researchers call fright without solution. As adults, they desperately seek closeness, then sabotage it. They want intimacy but find it unbearable. Chaos feels more familiar than stability. And finally, earned secure attachment, which we'll return to because it's proof that your childhood doesn't have to be your destiny. Do you recognize yourself in this? Here are 12 signs you grew up without the love you needed. You apologize excessively, even for things that aren't your fault. Compliments make you uncomfortable, and you deflect them immediately. You're hyper-independent, and asking for help feels impossible. You have difficulty identifying your own emotions. You're drawn to emotionally unavailable people. You overgive in relationships until you're exhausted. Conflict makes you want to disappear or freeze completely. You feel like you're watching life through glass, present but unreachable. You downplay your pain while holding space for everyone else's. You test relationships to see if people will stay. Silence feels safer than vulnerability. You constantly scan for signs of rejection even when none exist. If more than 5 resonate, you likely experienced a childhood without adequate emotional love. This isn't about blame, this is about understanding why you move through the world the way you do. Your body carries this imprint in what's called your window of tolerance, the zone where you function without becoming overwhelmed or shutting down. For people who grew up without adequate love, this window is remarkably narrow. Stress immediately pushes you into hyperarousal, where your heart races and thoughts spiral, or hypoarousal, where you dissociate and go numb. This is your vagus nerve doing what it learned in childhood. When the connection felt unsafe, your nervous system developed protective responses, fawning, becoming excessively agreeable to avoid rejection, and freezing, going silent when emotions get big, fighting or fleeing, becoming defensive, or disappearing when things get uncomfortable. These responses happen automatically. Someone raises their voice slightly, and you're 9 years old again, trying to be invisible. Walk into any therapist's office, and you'll hear the patterns repeating. In romantic relationships, you perform constantly, trying to be the funniest, most helpful, most understanding, because some part of you believes that's the only reason someone would stay. You mistake intensity for intimacy, chaos for passion, because calm, steady love feels so unfamiliar that it registers as boredom or disinterest. You're drawn to emotionally unavailable partners not because you're self-destructive, but because unavailability feels like home. It's what your nervous system knows. Picture this: your partner says, "You seem distant lately," and instead of saying "I've been overwhelmed," you immediately start apologizing, reassuring them, and asking what you can do differently. Or they compliment you, "You look beautiful tonight," and you can't just say "thank you." You deflect, "Oh, this old thing, I just threw it on," or you turn it back to them immediately. "Not as good as you look," because receiving feels dangerous. It creates debt. It creates expectations. At work, you become the person who can't say no. You take on far more than your share because proving your worth through productivity is the only way you learn to matter. You stay late, volunteer for extra projects, never complain, and then wonder why you're exhausted and resentful. You downplay your achievements. When your boss praises your work, you say it was nothing, just doing my job, or you credit the team, even when it was primarily your effort. You suffer from imposter syndrome, convinced you're one mistake away from everyone discovering you're a fraud. Except you're not a fraud. You're someone who internalized the message that your value must be earned through constant performance, that simply existing isn't enough. In friendships, you're the therapist friend, the one everyone confides in but who shares nothing in return. Not because you don't trust people, but because you learned your feelings are burdens, that taking up space is selfish, and that being needed is safer than needing. You cancel plans when you're struggling because you don't want to be too much. Someone asks how you're doing, and you always say, fine, great, can't complain, even when you're falling apart inside. You apologize for things that aren't your fault, for existing, for having needs. And through it all, there's this persistent glass wall between you and genuine connection. You can be surrounded by people who love you and still feel fundamentally alone, not because connection isn't available, but because your nervous system doesn't quite trust it. Here's the cruelest irony: people who receive the least love often become the most loving adults, but in ways that hollow them out. They remember birthdays, check in during hard times, show up with soup. They create for others what they wanted as children, but underneath, it's compulsion. Not giving feels dangerous. If they stop being useful, they'll stop being wanted. Psychologists call this codependency, but it's really an unconscious belief that love is something you do, not something you are. That worth is measured by usefulness. They end up with takers, people who are happy to receive without reciprocating, because neglected people have poor boundaries. They were never taught that their needs matter. Growing up without love lives in your body. Adults who experience this report higher rates of chronic pain, autoimmune conditions, digestive issues, and persistent fatigue. Children who can't express feelings store them in their tissues. Sadness becomes chest tension. Fear becomes stomach knots. Anger becomes jaw clenching. Over years, this can create real physical symptoms. Somatic psychology shows trauma survivors often dissociate from their body, living entirely in their head because the body holds too much pain. Dr. Gabor Mate's research reveals many chronic illnesses have roots in childhood emotional environments. The stress of growing up without adequate love creates measurable changes in immune function, inflammation, hormonal balance. So how do you heal from 1,000 small absences? First, recognize the pattern in real time. Notice when you apologize for things that aren't your fault. When you minimize pain while holding space for others. When kindness makes you uncomfortable, these moments show exactly where the wound lives. Start keeping a journal. When you notice these patterns, write them down. Not to judge yourself, but to see the pattern clearly. I apologized 3 times in that meeting for ideas that were actually good. I told my friend I was fine when I wasn't. I deflected that compliment again. Awareness is the first step. Second, reparent yourself. This means becoming the emotionally attuned adult you needed as a child. When you're anxious, instead of self-criticism, practice saying out loud, "It makes sense that I feel this way. My nervous system is trying to protect me. I'm safe now, and I can handle this." Place your hand on your heart as you say it. The physical touch matters. It signals safety to your nervous system in a way words alone don't. When you're struggling, practice this exact script. Call a trusted friend and say, "I'm having a hard time and I need support. Can you listen for a few minutes? I don't need advice. I just need to be heard." If asking feels impossible, start with text. "I'm struggling today. Can I call you later?" Start small. The goal isn't perfection. It's showing your nervous system that expressing needs doesn't lead to rejection. When you're tired, practice rest without earning it first. This is revolutionary for people who grew up without love. Lie down in the middle of the day and say out loud, "My body deserves rest simply because I'm human, not because I've been productive enough." Rest is not a reward, it's a biological need. If guilt arises, notice it, name it. That's my old programming. And rest anyway. Third, try these daily practices. Each morning, before checking your phone, place your hand on your heart and take 3 deep breaths. Say, "I am here, I am safe, I am enough." It sounds simple, almost silly, but you're rewiring decades of programming. Your brain needs repetition to build new neural pathways. Do this for 30 days straight and notice what shifts. When you catch yourself pleasing people, pause. Ask yourself, what do I actually want right now? Not what will make them happy, not what will avoid conflict. What do I want? Then honor that, even in small ways. If someone asks you to lunch and you're exhausted, practice saying, I'd love to, but I need some quiet time today. Can we reschedule for next week? Notice how your body responds. The anxiety that floods in is your nervous system recalibrating to the idea that boundaries are safe, that saying no doesn't mean abandonment. When someone compliments you, resist every urge to deflect. Instead, take a breath, make eye contact, and simply say thank you. Then pause, let the discomfort exist, count to 3 before you speak again. You're teaching your system that receiving is allowed, that you don't have to earn or explain or reciprocate immediately. The discomfort is the healing happening. For relationships, practice these scripts. When your partner asks if you're okay and you want to say I'm fine, try this instead. Actually, I'm struggling today, I don't need you to fix it, I just need you to know. When conflict arises and you want to flee, try I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. Can we take a 10-minute break and come back to this? I want to work through it, I just need a moment. When someone gets close and you want to test them, try I notice I'm feeling scared of getting hurt. That's my pattern. Can you be patient while I learn to trust this? Specific therapeutic approaches help. Internal family systems therapy identifies different parts of yourself. The inner critic, the frightened child, the protector, and teaches them to work together. EMDR reprocesses traumatic memories so they stop triggering present reactions. Somatic experiencing reconnects you with your body and releases stored trauma. But healing also happens in relationships that prove old beliefs wrong. A friend who doesn't punish you for having needs. A partner who stays during conflict. A community that values you for existing, not performing. These corrective experiences teach your nervous system that connection can be safe. The key is consistency. Many good experiences, each challenging the belief that you're too much or not enough. That's earned secure attachment. The Minnesota longitudinal study followed participants from birth into their 30s. Children with consistent emotional attunement showed better relationship and mental health outcomes decades later. But adults who didn't have early security, but later formed stable, attuned relationships showed the same positive outcomes. This is earned security, proof your brain remains capable of change. Neuroplasticity doesn't shut off at any age. Every experience that contradicts old programming builds new neural connections. Earned security starts with self-awareness, recognizing your attachment style. It continues with self-compassion, treating yourself with the kindness you deserved as a child. It deepens through relationships with secure people who can tolerate your anxiety, handle your avoidance, stay steady while you learn to trust. Practically, choose people differently. Instead of gravitating toward familiar chaos, choose consistency, follow through, respected boundaries. At first, these relationships might feel boring because your nervous system is wired for intensity. But as they prove reliable, something remarkable happens. The anxiety quiets, the need to test or sabotage lessens. You begin believing you don't have to earn love. Now, let's be clear about when to seek professional help immediately. If you're experiencing suicidal thoughts, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 988. If you're having panic attacks multiple times per week that interfere with daily life, that's a sign. If you're using substances to numb emotional pain, that needs intervention. If you can't maintain any close relationships because the anxiety is too overwhelming, therapy isn't optional anymore, it's necessary. If you're engaging in self-harm, even subtle forms like extreme restriction, or overwork to the point of collapse, you need support now. These aren't signs of weakness, there are signs your nervous system is overwhelmed and needs professional help to recalibrate. For everyone else, healing is not a linear process. You'll have good days and hard days, but over time, anxious moments become visitors rather than permanent residents. You develop the capacity to soothe yourself, reach out for support, and trust that connection is possible. And that capacity changes everything. If you recognize yourself in these words, understand this. You're not broken. You're someone who adapted brilliantly to an environment that couldn't meet your needs. Those adaptations made perfect sense then, even if they cause pain now. The ache you feel watching other people connect easily, seeing families that enjoy each other, witnessing love you've only read about, that ache isn't proof that something is wrong with you. It's proof you were built for connection, that you still remember what you were meant to have, that the child inside never stopped hoping. Growing up without love doesn't mean living without love forever. The path exists. It requires doing the work your parents should have done, learning to love yourself the way you should have been loved. But it's possible thousands have walked this path before you, and on the other side is a life where connection feels safe, where love doesn't require performance, where you finally get to come home to yourself.